Now let's look at the possible timing of the coming conflict. It looks like to me this is going to happen. I can't tell you for sure when, but it looks like it's going to happen. What is the possible timing? Let me just tell you what the experts are saying. The head of the CIA predicts a military confrontation in the year 2000. This is from the China News Digest, February 7. Central Intelligence Agency Director George Tenet warned that a military confrontation in the Taiwan Strait was likely this year because of Taiwan's presidential election in March and related talk of independence for the island. Tenet made his comments when he delivered his annual global threat assessment report to the Senate Intelligence Committee on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2000. This is not some wacko prophecy teacher saying this. This is the director of the Central Intelligence Agency speaking to the Senate Intelligence Committee 2 or 3 months ago. What does Mr. Jiang Zemin say? The president, the most powerful man in China. South China Morning Post, March 28, 10 days after the elections. A Beijing source said yesterday, Beijing would make a final decision later this year on whether to use military means against the renegade province. Later this year. Head of the CIA says probably this year. Will China attack? Now, it goes on to say, to satisfy world opinion, Beijing is giving the Chen administration a grace period of a few months. He is inaugurated on May the 20th. They said we're going to give him a few months to see what he will do. And then it goes right on to talk about the possibility of attacking during the U.S. presidential election. Telegraph, the London Telegraph, March 12th. Western analysts suspect that Beijing could perceive America's presidential election as an opportunity to catch Washington off guard without an adequate response to an international crisis. Presidential election time, that's around November. Now, I can't tell you. I don't know when. I hope it's later. I hope it never happens. I hope I'm misunderstanding something here. I'm just telling you, this is what the experts are saying. Now, here's the next big question. Will the United States defend Taiwan? Let's find out. The Pentagon has issued a warning to China. Washington Post, February 23rd. A top Pentagon official yesterday warned China that it would face incalculable consequences if it followed through on threats to use forces against Taiwan. This is coming from the Pentagon. Incalculable consequences. What does that mean? Well, the spokesman for the White House, Joe Lockhart, said, we have repeated in, I think, both actions and words that we view any threat to Taiwan with grave concern. And then he goes on to define more clearly what he means by that. He said, first of all, he said the country, the United States, would not hesitate to respond if China attacks Taiwan. Now, who's speaking here? We're talking about the White House spokesman in a press conference sponsored by the White House. The country would not hesitate to respond if China attacks Taiwan. And then he went on to say, in 1996, we responded appropriately to what we viewed was a threat, Lockhart said. That should give you some indication of how we view the situation. What we did in 96, when we sent 2 aircraft carriers in there, that tells you what we will do. Pretty strong words for people who say we won't move. Well, we did move in 96. It looks like we will move now. And if the prophecies mean what they appear to mean, it'll blow up in the worst war the world has ever known. So why is the conflict likely this year? There are other reasons why it's likely this year. First of all, China right now has 24 city buster missiles aimed at 24 major U.S. cities. They could push the buttons tonight, and within an hour, 24 major American cities would cease to exist. These are bombs that are 10 times as powerful as the one used against Hiroshima. They have those sitting on the launching pads at this moment, and we have nothing to stop them with. We had the man, David Gertz, who is the Washington Times correspondent that writes continually about this crisis. He was allowed to go to Cheyenne, Wyoming, to the Air Defense Center there, and they were simulating a Chinese attack on the United States of America. He was able to watch it happen. They allowed him to, and he watched the missiles coming on the screen. He said to the commander, he said, "What can we do?" And the commander said, "Nothing. We did not build Star Wars like President Reagan wanted to. We have nothing to stop these missiles. However, we are now planning on building an anti-missile defense system. About 4 months ago, we successfully tested an anti-missile missile. These missiles travel at 2 miles per second. I'm talking about a missile. 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles. It's like hitting a bullet with a bullet, and we successfully did it. We then tested another one, and it failed, and they claim it was only because there was a nitrogen leak. I think within the next month or two, we're to test another one. If that one succeeds, everybody thinks Bill Clinton is going to say, we've got to go with this now. We're doing it under the excuse we've got to stop rogue nations that are acquiring nuclear weapons such as Iran and North Korea. But don't you ever forget it. If China's written on the side of those missiles, we're going to use them against them just as well. And China and Russia are very upset. They're saying we're going to offset the balance of power in our world. Now, that's what's going on right now. I mean, I could bring 100 articles to this podium this evening. That's where we are right now. Now, furthermore, not only is the anti-missile defense system supposed to be completed, Israel just made one operable within the last 2 weeks. And we funded 65% of their anti-missile defense system, which means we have access to it as well. We may already be constructing it and not telling anybody. That may be what is happening right now. And China knows this is going on. And China knows that right now she could invade Taiwan. And if we move against her, she could call President Clinton and say, you come 1 mile farther and we're going to push all 24 of these buttons. And you know there's nothing you can do to stop it. But if China waits 6 months, she may have lost that blackmail power. So if you're determined to invade Taiwan, and they have said 1,000 times they will, then when do you do it? You wait until it can be stopped? Or do you do it while it can be successful? Remember the threat. We don't think you're going to trade Los Angeles for Taiwan. And the man that threat was made to, I quoted you, recently said, I think there's going to be a war.